Hi there, welcome back. It's been a bit since I made my last video. I'll post all of these all at once. You all won't realize that there's been a delay, but it's been a few days. I wanted to quickly just after going over the other videos, I may have misspoken or been unclear about some things. So just quickly, I've got these notes on my phone. I had mentioned taxes, that I was claiming 9, and I was. I originally did that because I absolutely had to. I wasn't able to make ends meet without a little bit of extra money, and that allowed me to do that. Every paycheck had a little more money because I was claiming 9. But I was honest about my taxes. I only did that for the short term. At the end of the year, I would claim the correct way. So I would end up owing. I wasn't hiding anything. I wasn't being dishonest. So I did owe. Now I expected that I would get a raise. I expected I was going to be getting raises on a regular basis, as you should. That never happened. I never got a raise the entire time I worked at that boatyard. So every year I would owe more on my taxes and be unable to pay it because I didn't have any extra money. I contacted the IRS early on. And I explained to them my situation. That I was out of school, and I was stuck in a job. I didn't really feel that I had any. I did feel stuck at that job, and I was sort of locked into a low wage. And I was pleading with them to be lenient about all of the penalties that they were packing onto my already adding debt that I was accumulating every year. And I'd never spoken to the IRS before this point. And I expected, I was probably naive, but it's not unreasonable to expect what my expectation was, which was that I was being honest, and I was just trying to survive, and I was trying to be a productive member of society. And if taxes are what they claim to be, which is all of us put aside some money to run the government, but also to help those in need that slip through the cracks from time to time. I was in a situation where they were taking more from me than I was able to give, and I was just asking them to not pile on all of these penalties. And there were a lot. There were I forget, it's been a long time, but there were late fees, and then there were other sorts of fees. There was interest, but it was costing me a whole lot of money, and they didn't receive that message well at all. I was surprised at how really unempathetic they were, and I got nowhere and realized kind of what the IRS was all about. I have spoken to them throughout the years many times. I've spent I don't know how many countless hours, days, weeks on the phone with this institution, and it's a I may speak a little more about this, but so I was being honest about my taxes, and I was really falling behind here because I wasn't able to earn any more money through my job. I skipped ahead a bit. When I was I had mentioned I took an X-ray when I got out of that hospital. That was a reference X-ray, and the purpose of that X-ray, you probably realize by now, was to at a later date be compared to another X-ray that I would do, and that would establish growth in between that span of time. I got the second X-ray done a year and a half, 2 years later. And when I got that X-ray done, I immediately took it home and took out my previous X-ray. I had a glass table which I placed a lamp underneath, and a sheet of paper on top of that to diffuse the light. And then I placed the first X-ray over that sheet of paper, and then I carefully placed the most recent X-ray, excuse me, over the first one, and I lined everything, trying to find reference points and really being careful about lining it up. And what I saw was about 1/8 of an inch movement in exactly the areas that I thought that I would see that movement. So I brought those X-rays back to the doctor who had taken my wisdom teeth out, the oral surgeon. Also, the doctor who I had mentioned this problem to, and it wasn't received well by him. But I figured that with this proof, or at least very strong evidence to support my claim, he would take an interest in it. He didn't take an interest in it. And his response was, he did see the deviation there. He saw the movement. But he said, what you're claiming to have happen isn't possible. And I said, but you see that there's a difference between these two X-rays. And it's exactly in the area that I said that I had predicted the movement would be taking place. And he said yes. He agreed. He saw the differences. However, he was unwilling to even entertain the possibility that what we were dealing with was some sort of a medical anomaly. And he attributed it to I think his pretty much exact words were, well, the machine must be broken now. It's a fault of the machine. I was really disappointed with his lack of interest, and not understanding that the probability of, essentially what he was saying was that my claim that this was happening, being supported by X-ray evidence that it is actually happening, is less likely than essentially the alternative, which was my prediction that this machine, because I got the X-ray taken by the same piece of equipment both times. I made sure that was something I did. But I didn't want to get one X-ray taken by one machine and then have it the second reference X-ray taken by a different one for obvious reasons. They may read a bit differently. So, I was really disappointed with his lack of interest and reasoning ability. So my plan was, but I wasn't all that discouraged. I was simply going to take these elsewhere. My plan was to get a third X-ray. I was going to wait about another 1.5 or 2 years, get a third X-ray done, and bring all 3 to someone else. And I imagined that any reasonable person at that point wouldn't be able to just dismiss this. They would take it seriously and say, well, let's let's at least look into this further before we label you a, this, some guy who's suffering from delusions. So I wanted to mention that because in my when I was 28 years old and I was working at this boatyard, I had mentioned that I moved to Portland because of the my license being suspended because of that OUI charge, which I was dropped, and I was given a driving to endanger because I did take that plea deal because of the murder trial that they were trying to push through the court system faster. Getting my case out of the way allowed them to push that trial through. When I moved, I didn't take I always made sure I placed these x-rays in it was like a manila envelope with a wire closure. And I always knew where this envelope was. This was the most important document that I owned or ever had owned. There was nothing more important to me because it allowed me to absolve my parents thought I was crazy, and I needed to show them that there was some sort of medical anomaly taking place and I was suffering from it, and I didn't want them to see me that way. And I also wanted help. I wanted to, if there was anything that could be done for me, I certainly wanted to pursue that. So I kept this folder, or envelope rather. It was a large envelope, probably, 12 by 16 or so inches, the size of an x-ray. And I kept it in a shelving unit. There was a shelving unit in my room, had been there ever since I was a child. It was in my childhood room. And there was one cupboard at the bottom, only one cupboard, one enclosed area on this whole thing. And I would always keep that envelope in there. Now, when I moved out to my new place in Portland, I kept it in there for a couple of reasons. One reason was because I didn't like to take this envelope out in front of my parents. I didn't like how it just made them think about me and me being mentally ill and like their child being broken. That's what I imagined. They kind of. They thought something was wrong with me. And I really avoided talking about this until I could show them that what was actually going on with proof. So I didn't move the x-ray for that reason, because I think I wasn't able to get an opportunity to move it without them seeing it. So I just kept it in there. Another reason was because I didn't really know how safe this new place I was going to live, how secure that document could be. I really wanted to keep it safe. And in my childhood room, in that cabinet that had never moved for decades, it was safe. A few months later, I think around... I was still 28. It was approaching the end of the year. I had come home and to my parents' house to visit, and I wanted to grab that x-ray. I had noticed that they had moved the shelving unit to the garage. They were redoing my bedroom. They were turning it into something else, and they wanted that unit out. And what I expected was, okay, well, they came across the document because who's going to move a shelving unit that's not theirs and not check the only one cabinet to see what's in there before moving it. I would never move a large piece like that without. Anyways, I thought that I figured that's what happened, but I wanted to check. When I was there, the shelving unit was in, or not the shelving unit, it was a shelving unit. I apologize. I wanted to check the cabinet and grab that x-ray out of it and bring it with me and actually bring it back to my place. At this point, I wanted possession of it. My father at the time was working in the garage right next to it, and I was waiting for him the whole time. He wouldn't move. He was there the whole time, and I had to leave eventually. And he didn't move from that spot, and I so badly didn't want to take it out in front of him. And I didn't. And I left. And so my plan was I was going to go back up there and grab it the next time I went up to visit my parents. I received a phone call from my mother shortly after that, and it was a strange phone call. She was really excited to tell me that she had thrown the shelving unit away, and they'd thrown it in the dump. And it was odd to me that she seemed so happy about having thrown this away. First of all, it was mine. But why didn't they ask me first if I wanted it, and also I thought, okay, she definitely took that out. There's no way you would throw something out to the dump without checking the only one cabinet, especially if this piece of furniture isn't your own. You don't know if someone has something in there. So I was so afraid to mention it to her. And this was, it was cowardly on my part. I didn't mention it because I thought there's no way that she would have actually thrown that away without checking. And I thought, well, maybe maybe this is her way of telling me that document is in a safe, secure place and it's going to be available for me when I need it. And but at the same time, I had this horrible suspicion that that was wishful thinking, and she did the unthinkable, which is she threw away that document, which was the most important thing in the world to me. I later learned that that's exactly what she did. And she blamed it on me. She said, "Oh, you must have, you must have just misplaced it." And I would never have misplaced that. I mean, that isn't what happened. There was never a point in time when that document was either in my hands or in that cabinet of that shelving unit. I never, ever left it out of my sight unless it was in that shelving unit. I didn't find that out until it took me a long time to confront her about this, and it was on my mind every day. I thought about this for years. It sounds probably, I don't know how this sounds to other people. I don't know if people, I really don't know what this story sounds like to someone else. If people can imagine themselves in this type of situation, but it really was. It was beyond important. It was the most important thing to me, really. I really wanted to clear my name of this. What I imagined my parents assumed was like a serious mental illness that I was suffering from. Also, I'd like to mention. I'm almost done with these clarifications. The incident when I was young in the kitchen, when I pulled that knife out and at my mother, that was apparently not an incident that was known only to myself and my mother. She told the next door neighbor. Now, I don't know if she told other people. She claims that she didn't, but other people found out about it. When I was 25, I had gone on a date with someone, and the date, I decided not to take it any further after that date. We didn't date anymore, and her friend had told the woman and I became friends. And she told me at some point that her friend, while they were talking about me, said, well, paraphrasing, this is kind of pretty much exactly what she said, though. She said something like, you dodged a bullet anyways, because when he was 12 years old, he pulled a knife on his mother. And I was so surprised to hear that was a thing, that information was out in the world. I don't know how many people knew about it, but at this point, at least 3 other people, because she found out by way of her mother. Context is really important. I was not some violent kid who was just willy-nilly throwing, knives, like whipping knives around. I explained the story to you, and I was in a I was very distraught, and I just wanted my space, and it was a desperate act, and there was absolutely never any intention to harm anyone, to harm my mother. I was never going to make any contact with her. It was just it was a completely desperate move to regain my space. She was in my space way too much, and I needed out, and there was no place in the house for me to go, but that she wouldn't follow. Now, I had mentioned the Depakote that I was taking until I was 19. It didn't do anything for me at all. Any progress that I made, and I did make progress with this vertigo that I was dealing with, was just a lot of figuring out. It was mental exercises. I was making myself mentally stronger and trying to figure out how I could deal with this, and it was really, really hard. This Depakote, when I got myself off it when I was 19. I just stopped taking it, and I experienced a lot of issues, I think, resulting from that Depakote. Being small as a child, I think it had a whole lot to do with its effect on. I think it delayed puberty for a very long time, and I stayed small for a very long time, and that resulted in a lot of things. I think it resulted in me becoming, I think, a target for bullying, and not that necessarily that wouldn't have happened had I not been smaller, but everything helps. Every little bit helps, and I think that my being so small was a detriment to me, for sure. I was sneezing a lot, every day I would have these sneezing fits that would last a very long time. In addition to that, and I think that was having an effect on my liver. I think that was a symptom of its effect on my liver. I also suffered from abdominal pain often. If I was standing up for any period of time, my abdomen would start to hurt, and I'd get very fatigued. I was tired as a child and into adolescence. My energy levels weren't very good. I really think that medication played a huge role in my health, and was a factor in. There was a ripple effect with it, and it ended up affecting a lot of things. Yeah. Okay. I think that takes care of the clarifications. I'm going to turn this video off, and then I'm going to resume where I left off with the previous video. Thank you. I'll see you in that video.